Welcome back to DesignShift, the crossroads of design and mindset. I'm your host, Blair Cho, and tonight I'm interviewing Natasha Riley. She is a certified sex therapist and a licensed pleasure expert. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so excited to talk to you.
You're welcome. I'm excited for the conversation.
Are you all ready for Christmas?
Sure.
I know. I was thinking today about all the groceries that I need to buy and stocking stuffers I still need to get. It's hectic.
Yeah. Yes. We're almost there, though. Almost to the finish line.
So I want to dive right in. So tell me what it is that a certified sex therapist and pleasure expert does. What does that mean?
So what that means is I talk things sex, I talk things intimacy, desire, self-love, life satisfaction. Those all kind of play a part in each other. So that's usually where our conversations go.
Okay. And do you see individuals, couples?
I see both. So I see individuals and I also see couples. However, I did hire someone in my practice to see couples because that can be burnout city dealing with two people at one time. I love my couples, but I am happy to hand them over.
We get pretty hostile, I would imagine.
Hostile, I would say it's just you can feel the energy, right? And you have to be polite with pushing them in the direction that's the best direction for them, whether they recognize that that's the direction they need to go or not. And also, sometimes people just get in their feelings. And when one person shuts down, the other person is just like, what's happening? And you know that they're going to take this into the rest of their day or until we meet again. So, yeah, it's a lot.
Is it common for couples to be able to compromise and find a happy medium? Does it take a couple sessions? What if they can't?
I think with my couples, the first thing we have to establish is the fact that you're not going to like everything that your partner has to say. And the goal is to not get defensive. The goal is to feel your feelings, acknowledge your feelings, and share that, and have your own personal coping skills to be able to come back to the conversation. So I always tell them each person needs to have their individual support because when it comes to this work that we're doing in the relationship, you can't be each other's support system. As much as you want to, you're my everything and I'm always going to have you. No, we gonna dig into some stuff where it's like, I can't stand you. And when we get off of this meeting, I don't want to talk to you, which is absolutely fine. But you need to have somewhere else to go to offload that, to process that, to just really sit and think about it so that you can come back and have a decent conversation about it. So if we can get through people's trauma and what their expectation is of a relationship and not being vulnerable with their partner, we can absolutely come to compromises. Or we don't, and we just accept that the relationship has kind of run its course.
Okay. What typically prompts a client to come to you?
So for couples, it's usually some type of sexual concern. So for my individuals, they usually come to me because I don't see men one-on-one. Being a sex therapist, I have not had the greatest experiences with that. I see one man, and I was just trusting my intuition, and we've been rocking for about 2 or 3 years. So the women that usually come to me, it has to do with some type of connection with self. So it's a lot of, I did all the things that people told me to do, and life is not doing what they said it was supposed to do. I'm not satisfied. I've gone through a divorce, and I have no clue what I'm doing. My kids are gone out of the house, and I don't know who to be without just being a mom and providing for my kids. So it's a lot of bringing them back to themselves and exploring and getting to know who they are in the present moment.
So a lot of personal development and self-discovery.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So do you encourage them to implement self-care practices? Like, where would you start with them?
So we start with what they want. 10 times out of 10, they have no clue what they want, which is what most of our work is, like figuring out what it is that they want and feeling okay with asking for what they want without the guilt and the shame behind it, but also their boundaries, right? Like, what are your boundaries? How do you continue to pour into your cup? Are you able to tell people no when you know that you feel depleted or it's something you don't want to do? You don't have the mental capacity for things. So it's teaching them how to protect themselves, not just from other people, but from themselves, like self-sabotaging themselves.
When I think about boundaries, I think about just the ability to say no. What some common boundaries with yourself, like examples of self-sabotage and ways that they can combat that.
So, yes, no is it's a top tier boundary, right? Because when you say no to something, you get to say yes to something else. But a boundary may be, okay, I make sure that I'm in the bed at 10:30 because I know that if I don't go to bed at this time, it really messes with my day the next day. I'm exhausted. I'm cranky. My energy is just not there. I suffer from brain fog. Or I know I need to follow my morning routine or it really messes up my day, things of that nature. I know that I need to go on this walk every day. I know that I need to wash my clothes a certain time of day. Like just knowing things that you need to do. And despite what other people are saying about it, or if it gets boring, you're going to do it anyway because it helps create a specific quality of life for you.
Right. And you really have to love yourself, have that self-love before you're going to be dedicated to any sort of routine or self-care practice, anything to take care of yourself.
Yes. Yes, you absolutely do, because you have to believe that you deserve it. You have to believe that you're deserving of being able to rest at 10:30, even though everyone's screaming in the house, oh, I need this, and can you find that? And the job is calling you and sending you emails, right? The boundary is, I'm going to get in the bed at 10:30, regardless of what anyone else has going on. It doesn't matter.
It's
Because
hard.
I need my rest.
It seems like such a simple boundary to set, but when you take about all the extrinsic factors, that really something as seemingly simple as that can be really difficult.
Oh, it is, especially if you are a people pleaser and you don't want to make people upset with you. And you just want to make sure if I say yes to this and I just do what it is that they're asking, they'll be okay, they'll be fine. But coming into my atmosphere, one thing you're going to learn is we are not going to say yes and show up for people at the demise of ourselves. That's not what we do over here. And it does take a while for them to unlearn that, because a lot of that comes from you saw your mom do it or you saw your grandmother do it. It's a learned thing. So yeah, we don't do that over here.
Right now, I'm reading a book, The Five Love Languages. You may have read it. It's, I think, pretty popular, but it basically talks about exactly that, how you model your marriage after what you saw growing up, your parents. So stereotypical male-female roles, for example, if your dad worked outside of the home and he never did anything around the house, then as a husband, you may do those exact same things. And the women, if they saw their mothers take care of the house and the children and not work or things of that nature, then they try to do the exact same thing. And especially in today's society, when most couples both work outside of the home, that's really difficult, especially on women, I feel like, because they're working outside the home full-time job, but they're still taking care of the house, taking care of the kids, trying to do everything that their mother did. And when they struggle or they can't accomplish everything, they feel a sense of guilt.
Yes, and a sense of failure. And you don't always have that support from your family because it's like, well, I did it. I don't really know why you can't do it. And so it's like, okay, well, where do I go to get the support? Or maybe I just need to push through this. But what ends up happening is, and I tell people all the time, it's not about if you're going to burn out or you're going to have a breakdown or something. It's about when, because it's coming, because you don't take care of yourself.
Right. And true story time. So when I grew up, my dad worked outside of the home. My mom did not work, so she took care of the home. She cooked, cleaned, took care of us. And now that I'm a mom, I work full time. And I, for a long time, struggled to accomplish all those tasks and, keep my house together. And my mom was always like, well, why can't you do it? That same sort of attitude. And I'm like, Mom, I work full time. Like I have a full time job. So thankfully, I have a husband who's very involved and very much willing to be a partner, but I'm cognizant of the fact that not everyone has that, and how lucky I am, but also that a lot of other women out there are struggling. It also makes me think of, in relation to what you do with sex therapy, I feel like, and I may be totally off base here, but a lot of women probably come to you as people pleasers, following their, where they're more subservient to their husband and they're more pleasuring him and taking care of his needs and not necessarily their own.
Right. Yes, that is exactly it. And they come to me talking about how they're not satisfied. And I'm saying, okay, well, did you say what you wanted? Because if we have a good partner, they want to please you. But the thing is, and I always compare it to a scavenger hunt. So you get the piece of paper and they have all the things for you to go out and find. Well, in this instance, you're playing scavenger hunt with your partner, but they don't get a list of things. And it's just, I need you to figure out how to please me. And it's a whole bunch of, no, that's not it. That's not it. You don't have the answers because you don't know. And you're expecting this person to figure it out. And it's not fair to them to figure out something that you don't know about yourself. You shouldn't be the last one to know about what you need, want, whether it's your body, your mind, your mental, any of that. You need to be the first one to know. So that's usually where we start. And so when I tell people, and they don't like hearing this, but you have to be honest with the truth. If you are having bad sex, it's usually your fault because either you're so wrapped up in being a pleaser that you don't worry about what you need. You don't know what you want. So you can't share it with the person that this is what I would like you to do because you don't know, or you know what you want. You're just not saying anything. All of that is on.
Right. That makes sense. So one of the pieces of advice that the author gives in this particular book is for each language of love, if your language of love is physical touch, bring out a note card and write down 3 to 5 things that you would like to see your partner do and give that so that they can have a reference and try to incorporate some of those things into your marriage or your life. So if I'm looking at this card and you know what to write, I don't know what I want. Where do I start? How do I figure that out?
So the basic answer to that, which I love this question, is always going to be your 5 senses.
Okay.
The basic foundational way to figure out what you like. Paying attention to what you eat, paying attention to what catches your eye, like what is appealing to what you're looking at, what you like to hear, touch, smell, all the things, and follow that. That gives you a clear indication of what it is that you like, because you can incorporate all of those into the bedroom at some point. You know, maybe you like a certain type of lighting. I don't like harsh sunshine in the house. So those overhead lights, I don't like them. So I just go and I cut them off. But I like side lamps and I like the pretty touch lamps. I like rose gold. So, you know, in my background, I like to be able to look at that. So I keep that around. I love lavender. So lavender candles. I pay attention to what I eat. I'm not eating to stuff my face, but I'm mindfully eating. I'm chewing. I'm tasting all the seasonings. Can I taste that? Can I taste the spice in it? Like I have created a life for me that is very sensual all the time. And sensual doesn't have to mean sexual. It just means that I am very in tune and have a relationship with my senses. And that's how I live. But that's also going to enhance your experience in the bedroom, and it's going to make it more creative and fun.
So it's really like romanticizing your life, which I feel like is a really popular buzzword right now. But I mean, that's essentially what you're doing, romanticizing your life, making it feel so good to you and be so pleasing to you. And like you're the star of the show.
Yes, yes, the main character all the time.
That's right, main character energy. So is a lot of what you do when you work with women specifically teaching them not necessarily to just love themselves, but also in an aspect to be more independent?
Yes. And I'm glad you asked that, because a lot of times when people go to therapists, or I mean, even sometimes coaches and things of that nature, there's always this codependency that can develop of like, I can't come up with the answers, or I can't figure out things on my own. And that's something that I always say, like, my goal is for you to be so confident that you don't need me. Like maybe you need to check in, but you don't need me to give you the tools, which is why I'm always giving them things to do outside of our sessions. Go talk to this person, go read this, go do this, go do that, so that our sessions are productive and focused around the thing that you did, how it felt, how you're processing it. Was there resistance? Did you not do it at all? Like there's some exercises like mirror work I'll tell people to do and they won't do it. understand that mirror work is very uncomfortable. So I don't usually expect them to do it the first couple times, but that gives us something to talk about, and it gives them something to think about when they're on their own. I am not, it's not the problem solver. I am not the fixer. And I think people need to understand this as therapists. We're not here to fix your life. We are here for you to become aware of how you choose to live and how it either is working or is working against you, and how you can change it. You can always change things. The problem is there are different values that have been instilled in us. There are different voices that we hear from our childhood and these authority figures that tell us that things have to be a certain type of way. And I'm just here to say, okay, but what happens if you don't do it that way? Do we end? Is the world over? Like, what if you just spend 2 weeks not doing that and then come back and tell me how it feels?
It's so dramatic. I mean,
It is.
You can create your own reality. You can come up with your own systems, your own thoughts, your own feelings. You don't have to model it or do it how someone else says. I think that's really for women to learn.
Yeah, but that's really scary, because if you go out here and you're just doing something based off of nothing, then there's like, well, what am I doing? When we follow these authority figures or these role models, it's like, okay, I have an idea of what things could look like for me. But if you don't have that, you have no clue who you're about to become. And that can be really scary. So I help them go through that process of like death of the self and moving into a new version, a version that no one has a clue what that looks like.
Right. So almost like a form of grief. You grieve.
Oh, it's absolutely grief. Absolutely.
Yeah. So what would your best strategy be? Like, what would you tell people to do to overcome that grief, get through that grieving process to really allow them to move into their future and their new self?
Be nice to yourself. Show yourself some compassion. It's not easy. 9 times out of 10, you're probably the first person in your family, in your life, to be trying to do something different and focusing on yourself. So be nice. Compassion, feel the feelings, feel the grief. It will pass, and you will have to do it all over again every couple of years because we're forever changing. And also get a support system that is aligned with the movement that you're going towards, that is just aligned and is willing to hold space for you and doesn't necessarily need anything for you. And they have the mental capacity. I think sometimes we don't give people the benefit of the doubt that they may not have the mental capacity to hold what it is that we need them to hold. And they don't want to say that they don't have it because they consider that being a bad friend or a bad whatever. So, like, find people that are there for you in the season that you're in right now, and go back to the senses. Give your senses what they need. Do more of what feels good.
And I think support systems like external support is definitely crucial, definitely important to your journey. But I feel like ultimately it's your support of yourself. And when you said be kind to yourself, that sounds so simple. It literally sounds so easy, but you're the first person to criticize yourself in your mind. Negative self-talk is so prevalent. You're the first person to bully yourself, first person to put yourself down. So what I always think about is when I'm saying something to myself, would I say that to my best friend? Like, how can I formulate this to be a more kind, productive statement or a question even, instead of just automatically attacking myself? Because would I attack my friend this way? What would I say?
Right. Or a kid, right? Would you say the things that you're saying to like a 4-year-old who's trying to learn? And you're like, oh my God, you're so stupid. You're dumb. Like, would you say that to that kid?
I always think, like, would I want my daughter to be thinking this to herself? Would I say her, for example, being conscious about your body? Okay, so I'm kind of familiar with mirror work because I can't remember the name of the book, but it was about women tuning into themselves and learning what they like in a bedroom. So basically to look at your naked body, learn to love and appreciate your body. And I think about that and I try to be really careful about what I say out loud Because
Mhm.
even if I'm thinking to myself, like, oh my God, that shirt does not look flattering, I don't ever want to say that around my daughter because I don't want her to ever be conscious about her body. I want her to be confident, think she is the hottest thing out there. And just as women, we just struggle so much. It's not fair.
Yeah, it's not. But I think there's also the burden of society and what they expect us and what they're constantly showing us we should look like or how we should show up or how we, how we should manage things. And that's the part of unlearning, despite the fact that I see these messages every day, whether it's conscious or it's unconscious. I have to be doing the work every single day to work against those messages that don't work for me.
Right. And that's why you really have to be your own safe space, your own best friend. You have to love yourself. External people, factors, whatever may not always be there. But if you care about yourself and you can speak to yourself kindly and love yourself, that's key.
It's always, always. And I tell people all the time, like, you are cake. Cake is really good by itself. You can go get an angel food cake. You can just make a funfetti cake and you can eat it, right? Like, it's good. If you know what you're doing, it's good. And then when you start adding the icing and the sprinkles and the cherries or the sauce or whatever, it elevates it that much more. But it was still good without all of that. So you are the cake from the inside out. You are the cake. When you start adding the people and the things and the experiences, that's the extra. But if you didn't have that, are you still good? Like, do you still look at yourself as cake? That will let you know the work that you're putting in and kind of like gauge your baseline of where you're at. Because I can wake up every day and be like, she's cake. And keep it moving. Yes, we're all cake. So that's a good way of being able to figure like, where am I at right now in this journey? Do I feel like I'm good if my partner left me today? If like, even for some single women, right? There's a chance that out here you will be single for the rest of your life. It's just a fact. Number wise, it's a fact. I don't want that, but am I okay knowing that that could be my story? Am I okay with being by myself? And that's how you know that you're going in the right direction. When things don't affect you, your inner thoughts and your inner feelings about yourself as much as they used to.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point for sure. Another way to spin it too with the whole cake thing is not everybody likes the same flavor of cake.
Really?
The flavor of cake that you don't like, but I'm still yummy.
Right. You're not for everybody and you shouldn't be for everybody. You got to repel somebody.
Right. That's right. We're not all the same. And we need to celebrate our differences and just, like we said, love ourselves, love our own flavor and our own
Mhm.
bodies, everything. Do you have any last words for listeners? Any solid piece of advice, takeaway that you want to share?
I think every day when you wake up, you should think about what is something that I can do for myself before I go out here and do anything for anyone else.
That's a really good one. I really love that. To all the listeners, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I will link all of Natasha's information down below. We really appreciate you guys joining us today. Natasha, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Blair.
Awesome. All right. Talk to you soon.
Bye.